control the family. Also in the commune in China, there is no right to private property. There is no private ownership of any property, including housing. There is no right to practice your religious views. There is no right to travel. There is no right to engage in an occupation other than farm work. In other words, the New World Order is already in place in China, and it appears to be working. The New World Order is completely functioning in China. The communism that is the result of the Chinese Communist Revolution of 1923 to 1949 is working. And it might be important at this point to mention that it was the government of the United States that gave communism to China during the Bloody Revolution. It was the United States government that assisted Zhou Enlai and Mao Tse-tung in the killing, in the intentional killing of as many as 60 million Chinese during the revolution, just so the government of the United States could give China the New World Order. The fact that it was the government of the United States that assisted the Chinese communists kill 60 million Chinese is covered in my book entitled The Unseen Hand. There is no question that 60 million Chinese people died so that the government of the United States could give China the New World Order. The experiment is working. Now, what all of this proves is that the old world order is crumbling right in front of our very eyes. Let me give you just one more example to summarize all that I've said in the last few minutes. What is happening is that good old-fashioned common sense is rapidly disappearing. Those things that we once held dear are being mocked, ridiculed, and abandoned. Those things that were once not talked about are coming out into the open. Those things that were once thought to be socially wrong are now being accepted. For instance, this little article appeared in our evening paper here in Tucson on February the 25th, 1993. It says that the 6th through 9th grade students are being asked about cannibalism in an essay contest run by the Maricopa Bar Association. Maricopa County is the county north of Tucson, and Phoenix, our state capital, is the county seat of that county. A bar association is, of course, an organization of lawyers banded together for a common purpose. The article went on to report that the students were being asked to respond to a hypothetical problem-solving exercise. The students were asked to consider what they would do if they were among 3 junior high friends trapped in a cave. Realizing that they can't live without food for more than 30 days, they decide to draw lots to see who will be killed so that the others can survive. A half hour after they kill one of the students, they are rescued. And the winners of this dilemma, or the winner rather, of this dilemma, wins a $50 savings bond and a plaque. 50 years ago, the bar would have been disbanded for bringing up such a hideous subject in such a stupid essay contest, but today the Bar Association conducts this contest to see who can best murder one of their fellow students. Notice that the students in the essay contest were asked to accept the decision to kill one of their classmates by deciding which one of the 3 would be eliminated. To solve the problem, as stipulated by the Bar Association, you have to murder one of your fellow students. But this conclusion of the essay contest appears to be acceptable because the Maricopa Bar Association said that it was a subject worthy of discussion. Quite simply, all of the old restraints are crumbling. The old world order is crumbling before our very eyes. This is a picture of Al Gore, our new vice president. And this is a book he wrote in 1992 entitled The Earth in Balance. He also talked about changes coming to our civilization. I'd like to read the entire quote first through all the way, and then go back and attempt to explain what he meant. Here's what Al Gore wrote in 1992 on page 48. Check it out if you don't believe me. Page 48. Our challenge is to accelerate the needed change in thinking about our relationship to the environment in order to shift the pattern of our civilization to a new equilibrium. This change in thinking will also follow the pattern described in chaos theory, with little change evident until a threshold is passed. Mr. Gore went on, and then, as key assumptions are modified, a flood of dramatic changes will occur all at once. Now let's see what Mr. Gore was talking about. I'd like to read that quote again, this time one section at a time, so that we can analyze just what Mr. Gore is trying to tell us. Here's what he wrote. Our challenge is to accelerate the needed change in thinking. Here Mr. Gore is telling us that the changes are desirable and that we must hasten the day when we create the new civilization. He continues, we must accelerate the needed change in thinking about our relationship to the environment. So we must change our thinking about the environment. Today we think that individuals own the environment through the right to own private property. We must change the thinking so that the government will own it. That would explain what he means here. He wants the government to own the environment so that the people cannot abuse it. He goes on, in order to shift the pattern of our civilization to a new equilibrium. We believe in the concept of private property in our current civilization. As I said, individuals own the environment under the God-given right to own private property. I would call that thought the equilibrium, the center point, the thought that is the center of all of our thinking about the environment. If we change it, we must make a new equilibrium, and that new thought is the thought that the government must own all the private property. So Mr. Gore is advocating a form of socialism here. Socialism means that the private property must be owned and controlled by the government. Al Gore continues, this change in thinking will also follow the pattern described in chaos theory. Now, I've not finished the book yet, so I don't know what he means by the phrase chaos theory, but I believe he means that this conspiracy will create the crisis that will lead to their desired chaos so that they can offer their desired solution to the chaos so that we will accept their new world order, a new civilization. Mr. Gore continues, with little change evident until a threshold is passed. Here Mr. Gore is saying that there is a single event coming, one that this conspiracy will create so that we will accept their new world order. He continues, then, as key assumptions are modified, a flood of dramatic changes will occur all at once. What Vice President Al Gore was saying was that there is a new civilization coming and that they will create a crisis in the environment to force us to accept it. If that happened, they would force upon us, quote, a flood of dramatic changes in our civilization, unquote. But Al Gore is not the only one talking about a new civilization. This is Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, one of the pioneer thinkers about the future of the world. She created an organization called the Theosophical Society in 1875 that published her books and lectures. She wrote a 2-volume set entitled ISIS Unveiled in 1877, in which she stated, quote, the day is approaching when the world will receive the proofs that only ancient religions were in harmony with nature. So the religions of the world of today are out of harmony with nature, and Al Gore and Helena Petrovna Blavatsky are telling us that the new religion coming will put mankind in accord with the environment. Al Gore and Helena Petrovna Blavatsky are warning us that the old way of looking at things in the environment is obsolete, and that after the threshold is crossed, we'll receive a new way of looking at things. I'd like to return now to the book entitled The Externalization of the Hierarchy by Alice Bailey. This book was written in 1957, so she was one of the earliest to put this thought in writing. This is what she said on pages 278 and 279. The new era is coming, the new ideals, the new civilization. Notice, by the way, that Al Gore talked about a new civilization. Alice Bailey continued, the new modes of life, of education, of religious presentation, and of government are slowly precipitating, and she said, naught can stop them. So the new changes are coming, and no one can stop them. She was saying that the new world order is coming and that no one will stand in its way. She went on to point out that there are some people trying to stop this new civilization. She said they can, however, be delayed by the reactionary types of people, by the ultra-conservative and closed minds. She went on, they are the ones, those reactionaries and ultra-conservatives, are the ones who can and do hold back the hour of liberation. So the ultra-conservative types, meaning people like me, are delaying their plans of exposing them. And notice that she terms her plans the hour of liberation. We are going to be liberated from the old ideas by the new ideas. Man will be free when we adopt her program for the New World Order. This thought will be explored later in this lecture so that you will understand exactly why we thought we needed liberating. I'd like to go back and add another thought from Helena Petrovna Blavatsky on the same subject. She says this on page Roman numeral 7 of her book entitled ISIS Unveiled. The drift of modern thought is palpably in the direction of liberalism in religion as well as science. Each day brings the reactionists. Now here she's talking about those who favor keeping the old world order, the old civilization. So each day brings the reactionists nearer to the point where they must surrender the despotic authority over the public conscience, which they have so long enjoyed and exercised. So there are people hanging on to their old world order, and someday those of us who live the way we are living our lives must surrender to those who want to change our civilization. And then she tells us what is coming. She writes, our work, then, is a plea for the recognition of the anciently universal wisdom religion. So the way to dissolve the old world order is through religion, so that it will replace the old. There is a new civilization that is coming that will replace the old. There is a new way of doing things that will replace the old. And those new ways of doing things is called the New World Order. This is Albert Pike. He was a leading member of the Masons, an organization I will identify a little later in this lecture. And he also talked about change. He wrote this book entitled Morals and Dogma, perhaps the most important book ever written by any member of the Masonic Lodge. In this book, on page 734, he says this: there is in nature one most potent force, by means whereof a single man, who could possess himself of it, and should know how to direct it, could revolutionize and change the face of the world. This force was known to the ancients. He said, it was adored in the sacred rites of the temple under the hieroglyphic figure of Baphomet and the hermaphroditic goat of Mendes. We will explore the god known as Baphomet and the goat of Mendes later in this lecture. But Mr. Pike was saying that those who know who this god is have a force in their hands that can revolutionize the way we live our lives. We have been examining that force and will continue to do so throughout the remainder of this lecture. One of the ways we are being prepared to accept this New World Order is through the media, and I think it would be interesting to ask and then answer the question, what are the purposes of Geraldo Rivera, Sally Jesse Raphael, Phil Donahue, and Oprah Winfrey? And the answer is simple. Their job is simply to tell us daily that the old world order is falling apart right before our eyes. Adultery, child abuse, alcoholism, drug use, parental disputes, homosexuality, lesbianism, and all of the other traditional aberrations are being shown on these programs to be quite normal and expected. These talk shows are showing us daily that marriage leads to divorce and to wife abuse. Parenting leads to child abuse. Raising children leads to disagreements. And all of this is not fun. So once we believe that, we can change how we live. They are telling us, don't get married, don't raise children, don't love your husband, because if you do, he will beat you. Don't discipline your children. They can get along perfectly well without your interference. This is the reason these shows are on the networks. They are showing us that the old ways no longer work. And the reason is clear. We are being taught that the old ways of doing things, called the old world order, is no longer adequate to meet the needs of the people, and that we must concern ourselves with replacing these mores with new ones called the New World Order. And all of this was predicted in George Orwell's book entitled 1984. This book was written in 1949 by a socialist who saw exactly what socialism would lead to. So 44 years ago, a socialist predicted what was happening